segment of intellectual brainstorming and academic excellence. My name is David Omi and my YouTube channel is David Omi. We want to use this medium to say a very big thank you to our subscribers for those that have been subscribing to our channel on YouTube, David Omi Wisdom, IZ. And we also want to say a big thank you to our returning subscribers. We say a very big thank you to you all. And also want to encourage those people that have not subscribed to our channel to do that by subscribing to our channel and clicking on the notification button so that whenever we upload any video on the internet or on YouTube, you can be one of the first people that will get the video. And also to leave your comment on how to serve you better. Apart from this, you can also click on the like buttons on our videos. We say a very big thank you to all of you. Thank you so much. Today we're going to look at something different, something on public administration, and under that public administration, we're going to look at what we call public operation. Now, what is a public operation? A public operation can be defined as a business organization that is managed, financed, and owned, and owned by through the taxpayers' money by government of a country with the main aim of not making profits but to render essential services to members of the public. I will say again, a public administration may be defined as a business organization that is owned, established, managed, and financed with taxpayers' money by the government of the country with the main motive of not making profit or to render essential services. So that means that public corporations render essential services to members of the public. Now, public corporations can also be referred to as a public enterprise or statutory corporation. They can be referred to as a public enterprise or statutory corporation. It is established by an act of parliament. So public corporations are established by an act of parliament, and this act of parliament will determine the functions it will perform. Now, public corporations are managed and are owned by the government, but they are managed by a board of directors appointed by the government. Now, we used to have NNPC as an example of a public corporations in Nigeria. The Nigerian Railway Corporation is also an example of a public corporation or statutory corporation. Now, when you talk about, let's quickly now go into what we call the characteristics. Like I always say, characteristics, features, and attributes are all the same. So let us look at the characteristics of a public corporation. Number one, it is owned by the government, but it is financed by taxpayers' money. It is owned by the government, but financed with taxpayers' money. Number two, they render essential services. They render essential services. Then number three, in our definition, we can say that public corporations are not established to make a profit. Then apart from that, they enjoy what we call monopoly. So they do not compete with any organization in the provision of these essential services. Then their method of establishment, which is number 5, is that they are established by the act of parliament. Then the ownership, which is number 7, they are owned by the government, but they are managed by a board of directors. Then, lastly, it is a legal, it has a legal status. What do we mean by legal status? We simply mean that it's a legal entity which can sue and be sued, that they can be taken to court, or they can take a body or an individual to the court or an organization to court. Now, what are the reasons for the establishment of public corporations? Number one, it involves a lot of money to establish a public corporation. So it involves a lot of money. So it involves what we call huge capital involvement. So that's number one. It is very, it involves a lot of money for you to be able to establish what we call public corporation. Then number two, the nature of the services that they render essential services to members of the public, which is number two. Then number three, public corporations are not established to exploit members of the public, but to render essential, services to members of the public. So prevention of exploitation is another example of the reasons for, is another reasons for the establishment of what we call public corporations. Then for security reasons, which is another factor, government of a country establish and known public corporations like airports, seaport, and the rest of them, in order to keep an eagle eye on them, to know who and what comes in and out of the country. Then another one is that public corporations are established to raise the standard of living of the people. To raise the standard of living of the people. Because at the end of the day, when government establish public corporations, they are going to employ people, and when they employ people, they are going to pay them. They are going to pay them. So it will help to raise the standard of living of the people. Then another reason is that it will facilitate rapid economic development, because their presence will attract both local and foreign investors, and by so doing, it will facilitate, or it will, make a country to develop very fast economically. Then another one, which is the last one, is that we can say that public corporations help to create what we call provision of employment opportunity, because at the end of the day, people are going to be employed. Now, what are the controls, which is the third point, and which is the third subtopic? What are the controls of public corporations? Number one, there is what we call parliamentary control. Public corporations are established by the Act of Parliament, and the Act of Parliament that establishes them are given some form of power or control over their activities. So Parliament therefore exercises what we call control by scrutinizing their accounts, and there's also what we call the auditor's report before the House to question the activities of the public corporation. Then there's also what we call financial control. There's what we call financial control. When you talk about financial control, the account of public corporations are audited from time to time by government auditors. So they have what we call financial control. Then number four is what we call ministerial controls. Ministers are answerable to the parliament, and they are given extensive power over public corporations. So they have what we call ministerial control. Then lastly, we have what we call public control. So public corporations are also controlled by the members of the public. Through if the public corporations are not performing up to optimal level, or their services are docile or lopsided, or they are not doing well, you discover that the members of the public will criticize them through constructive criticisms, and so that they can be able to wake up to their slumber. They can wake them up from their slumber. Now, what are the problems that are faced by the public corporation? Never forget that we have mentioned 5 important controls of public corporations. We have number one, we said parliamentary control, we mentioned public control, we mentioned ministerial control, and we also mentioned financial control. So what are the problems that are encountered by public corporations? What are the problems? Public corporations have so many problems, but we do justice to it so that we can quickly be able to talk about them. Now, what are the first one? There is a frequent government interference. They are not given a free hand to carry out their activities. There's always government interference, which does not augur well for public corporations. Then we also have favoritism. Favoritism is also another problem. So favoritism is the appointment of general managers and members of board of directors, which lead to enjoyment of what we call mediocrity. Putting square peg in round holes. It doesn't work like that. Mediocrity, it will lead to a kind of a system where you have quacks in service that do not have the technical know-how ideas of how public corporation is actually being handled. Then we have number three, which is also one of the problems militating against their activities. We have political victimization of officials. There's political victimization. Then we also have ethnicism and sectionalism. Because of the nature of the country, we have three major ethnic groups in the country: Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. You discover that at the end of the day, there is ethnicism, tribalism, sectionalism, and this does not augur well for public operations. Then they also have what we call lackluster attitude. What do you mean by lackluster attitude? Most of the officials of public operations do not take their job so important, so they feel less concerned about public operations or their activities, so they don't care. So they also have what we call problem of bureaucracy or what tapism. Before policies are made, you discover that it has to go through various offices, and at the end of the day, there's always what delay in the services as a result of this. The last one, we have lack of qualified personnel. Most of the qualified personnel are going to into other fields of endeavor, especially in the private sector, where they are well paid. So at the end of the day, it doesn't augur well for public operations. Now, let us now quickly look at advantages of public operations. We just quickly mentioned it because of our time. It helps to, number one, it helps to prevent exploitation and discrimination. That's number one advantage. Public operation also ensures a steady supply of essential services. Then they are not established to make profits. So as a result of that, members of the public can be able to have access to their services. Then it helps to raise the standard of living of the people. That's another advantage. Then public operations provides uniform services all over the country. They provide uniform services all over the country. Now let us quickly look at the problems of public corporations or the merit of public corporation. Number one is what we call nepotism, sectionalism. There's favoritism in the public operations, and it does not allow it to function effectively. Number two, government interference. Government interferes in activities at every time, and because of that, they are not being able to perform optimally. So government influences their decision. Then there's also what we call enjoyment of monopoly. Because they enjoy monopoly, it makes them to be inefficient. For example, previously in Nigeria, the electricity supply in this part of the world is epileptic because there is no competition in that sector. As a result of that, that sector is highly inefficient. So that is it. Then there is also the problem of bribery and corruption in that area. So problem of bribery and corruption. Then there's also what we call many public commissions are established with the intention of many government officials to get kickbacks, and as a result of that, the resources are always wasted. So a lot of resources are always wasted under public corporation. Then there's also the problem which I've mentioned before, where tapism and the bureaucracy, which does not allow for effective performance. So there we also have government ownership of public corporations. Will make them to enjoy some kind of a monopoly, and because they enjoy this kind of monopoly, there is no competition. It does not allow for competition, and when a situation where there is no competition, it does not bring out the best in that area. It will not bring out their best in that area. But when there is a competitive system, it will bring out their best because each of them will be garnering for what we call competition among themselves in order to have more more subscribers or people that will want their services one way or the other. So that's also one of the problems. So these are the problems of public cooperation. So we have defined public cooperation as an organization that is owned by the government, to render essential services to members of the public, and they are not established or to make profit or to render essential services, and that they are established by Act of Parliament, and they are controlled or managed by a board of directors. And I also mentioned what we call we mentioned the control of public operations. We said that they have parliamentary, financial, public and ministerial control. Then we also talk about their characteristics. We said their ownership, and we also talk about they are owned by government but managed by board of directors through taxpayers' money. We said they render essential services. We said they are not made to make a profit. We have mentioned all these things. Then we said it involves a lot of capital investment and involvement to establish a public corporation. So on this note, we're going to round up on this topic called the public corporation. And don't forget that public corporation is under public administration. Public administration. So on this note, we're going to round up on what we call public corporation. I remain your humble servant, David Oni. I want to use this medium to encourage you to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, David Oni Luis, and also to leave your comment and click on the notification button so that you can always get our videos. And also, don't forget to click on the like buttons. On this note, we're going to end up on this topic called the public corporation. So I believe now that you know what we mean by public corporations, that when you talk about public corporations, there are business organizations that are owned by the government and they are financed through what we call taxpayers' money, and they are managed by a board of directors, and they are not established to make money but to render essential service to members of the public. And we have given reasons for why they are established. We have given the attributes of public corporations. We have given their control, and we also looked at what we call the advantages and the disadvantages. So on this note, we're going to round up. So please subscribe to our channel once again. David Oni Wiz, David David, then Oni is ONI, then Wiz is WIZ. Subscribe to our channel, leave your comment, click on the notification button, and click on what on the like button. So we'll meet next time. Thank you and God bless. Thank you and goodbye. Remember blessed. Bye bye.